Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of Cradle Bites, which are shorter segments that we will post online on YouTube when major developments take place in the region or a spotlight needs to be shown on something that is developing. I think particularly important, we're rolling this out now because where the Cradle is based, Lebanon has suddenly become a major theater of escalation. So I would like to introduce our podcast regular, Sima Tayyam, who is Director of Social Media here at the Cradle, to join me on bringing you updates on the terror attack that cut through Lebanon yesterday. So in brief, yesterday, thousands of pagers that were weaponized exploded throughout Lebanon, particularly in the Beirut suburb of Dahieh, the southern suburb, in the Bekaa, and in southern Lebanon. We have so far 12 people confirmed dead, including 2 children, a 10-year-old girl and a young boy. And officially, per Lebanon's Ministry of Health, this was announced yesterday, 2,800 are injured. We are hearing in various media outlets that number is up to 4,000 now, but just, to make clear, the official Ministry of Health number is still up to 2,800 injured. Among the injuries, importantly, are Iran's ambassador to Beirut and the son of Lebanese Member of Parliament Ali Ammar. Further to that, a dozen pagers also detonated in Syria. And, as the hours tick by, we're getting more and more information about, how this operation was conducted, further injuries, and further deaths, unfortunately. The perpetrators are believed to be Israel's intelligence agency, the Mossad, using pagers that detonated around 3:30 p.m. yesterday, Tuesday afternoon in Beirut, across Lebanon. This is a time of day when people were out and about. They were at work. They were at marketplaces and supermarkets and socializing with friends, which meant a maximum impact. It was not a 3 a.m. at night operation in which you minimize casualties. It was a 3:30 p.m. afternoon operation to maximize casualties and to drive fear in the hearts of all Lebanese civilians. Now, Sima, I'm going to go to you to describe the scenes. You've seen a lot more videos than I have and have been following this in the Arabic press as well.
To clarify, the hospitals in Lebanon are full, and the Lebanese Ministry of Health has also said that many injuries have been transported to Iran and Syria to be treated. That is the situation right now. And to clarify, the son of the Lebanese MP, Ali Ammar, was actually killed, and so was a healthcare worker at the Rasul al-Azam hospital, along with the 2 children. Now, from, my friends in Dahieh who were describing the scene to me, it was almost apocalyptic in the sense that people were just dropping like flies. They couldn't identify the sound. They saw people bleeding. They didn't know why people were going down the way they were. It had instilled such a confusion and a shock. It was really something out of a horror film. And it took a while to understand that these were these wireless devices, these pagers. And it was, on every street there were people bleeding. On every street, people collapsed because of this. These were pagers that they had either taken out of their pocket because they had received a message. They were hacked and they received a message, so they took it out to look at the message and they exploded right after. So that's why you have injuries that are not just, below the belt, but in the face that would cause blindness. You have this area. The injuries are all over. And so really what was described was that everybody could not understand what was going on. And there were literally injuries on every single street. There were screams of terror and agony. And hearing the sounds of these detonations, but not knowing exactly what they were, really freaked people out. Really indescribable and unprecedented in history and in our history here in terms of what the attacks have looked like in the past, by Mossad or otherwise.
So the pagers, as far as we know, there are reports that these are Motorola pagers. Those are not correct. They were from a Taiwanese company called Gold Apollo. Today, their CEO and other spokespeople said that these particular devices have come from their longtime partner company, the Budapest-based BAC, so in Hungary, which is authorized to use Gold Apollo's brand and to manufacture the products themselves. This model in particular, mentioned in media reports, was manufactured and sold by BAC. And so what's following now, since yesterday, since almost directly after the attack, is intense discussions and theories about how this operation was conducted. Some say the battery was detonated electronically. Experts are saying you would not have this kind of reaction just uniformly across thousands of devices by a battery. Others are claiming this was a pure electronic warfare hack, which I think is something that has been dispelled relatively quickly. But the general consensus is that these devices were intercepted at some point between their manufacturing in Hungary and an arrival into Lebanon. So even in the shipping process, etc., during which they were rigged with a quantity of the highly explosive material, PETN, in the device's batteries, which were then detonated by increasing the battery's temperatures. Now, all of these, especially the last one, looks more and more likely to be the possibility. This is moving now to, we're seeing the Israeli military operations clearly. We've talked many times at the Cradle's podcast about how they're running out of options and facing 5 different battlefronts. Now we're seeing electronic warfare. Does this mean Israel's running out of options, or does it mean it is just in the first phase of its escalation against Lebanon? Seema, we were talking about this offline, but one thing that's worth a mention is this was going around Twitter today, and with the evidentiary photos that in a very, very rare sighting, 2 U.S. Air Force Compass Call planes were active 20 hours before the Mossad's operation. This is an electronic warfare aircraft that can disrupt enemies' command and control communications, perform offensive counter-information operations, can, electronically jam devices and carry out electronic attacks in general. Yet the U.S. claims they did not know about this in advance. So, Seema, let's dive right into the analysis to keep this short. Israel has been, for the last 10 days, issuing almost daily statements from a variety of officials and its top governing officials about fully turning their military attention to the northern front, the border with Lebanon, and escalating against Hezbollah. They're moving battalions, equipments, weapons to the front. And on Monday, Israel's security cabinet met to discuss this very issue. They did announce at the end of their meeting a new war goal, a big departure from what they declared 11 months ago over Gaza in particular. And this war goal is to safely return the Israeli settler residents of the north back to their homes that they vacated. About 150,000 of them vacated homes, jobs, livelihoods, everything from October 8th onward. So this is now a declared goal of the war goal of the Security Council of Israel. What can we make of this attack yesterday, this terrorist attack on Lebanon, in light of Israel's escalatory language and new declaration?
Right. I mean, I'll give you my take on it. I feel like it has several layers. This is, I want to reiterate, this is an indiscriminate terror attack, the biggest we've seen. It violates the Geneva Convention, and it intended to be a terror attack. It was not accidentally targeting civilians. It was intentionally targeting civilians. The thing is, I feel that this is a decision to escalate and to force a response from Hezbollah. I'm sure you'll talk more about that, but for me, this is also to make civilians feel that they are unsafe, to make also, it's a blow to morale, an intended blow to morale, that we have penetrated your communication systems, not just through phones, but through these wireless devices, we know we can do whatever we want. We have whatever we want. This is the intention here. And it's to send this security message, that we can do whatever we want and we can penetrate whatever we want. That is aside from the fact that they want to escalate without really a full-out war. I mean, this is another episode if we want to talk about what kind of thing they want to do. Is it a limited ground invasion in the south with air cover? Because as far as I'm concerned, it's like edging. They want to reach just before an all-out war. And they think they can get away with doing that. And, this is just, it's a message to, civilians, but it's a message to the resistance. And also, don't forget, it comes the same, the morning of that day, we have this report that we kind of interpreted as a kind of false flag or excuse, where there was this thwarted Hezbollah, attempted assassination by Hezbollah of a former Israeli security official. And they found this explosive package, and it was supposed to be remotely detonated from Lebanon. And then hours later at 3:30, as you said, these pagers started exploding. I mean, it just has so many layers to it. It's like a punishment because Lebanon is supporting Gaza, even though Israel knows that Lebanon will not stop. And Israel knows that this terror attack will not bring the settlers back. So this is to take things to a new level without really going, to all-out war straight away. Like you said, they added this goal of returning the settlers. And they've done this to send a message, to instill fear and terror, and to provoke, a new kind of response, just as they've now taken things to a new kind of level. Although, of course, they will not admit responsibility, because the Mossad always distances itself from its operations. And this is the first time something like this succeeds on this scale. I just also wanted to bring up that in 2009 in Gaza, Israel tried to do the same thing with the Qassam brigades, and their engineers detected it and thwarted it. The exact same thing, explosives and wireless devices. So this, for them, is like, look, we have dealt them a massive security blow, and we will also be provoking a response.
Okay, just to make clear, I mean, 2,800 people injured yesterday. That number could be as high as 4,000, 5,000. We don't know yet. We will find out shortly. But Hezbollah has around 150,000 fighters and reservists in its ranks. This is, I mean, a crazy way. It's certainly a message by the Israelis, but a crazy punishment to a dangerous one that has all kinds of ramifications. For one, Seema, I'm sure you've been hearing from your friends overseas, as have I. My gosh, can we ever trust our phones again? Can we trust our laptops again? People are worried. It's not, the Israelis in particular, but any government that seeks to weaponize devices across the board. So this has those kind of ramifications. But with 150,000 fighters, it's not like this is going to deal any kind of lethal or near lethal blow to the Lebanese resistance. One of the things we know is that just on the front line, the border areas in the south with Israel, Hezbollah's operations are divided into 3 territories. And within each of those territories, you have 2 to 3 full battalions operating. Okay, these are not reservists. And within each battalion, you have between 7,000 and 10,000 fighters and soldiers. So potentially just in the south, you have, 70 to 80,000 active soldiers on the front lines, ground troops. So what is 2,800? Any of these people could also, the people injured and targeted, may have been in supply line operations, may have been in intelligence operations. We don't know anything like that yet. But in terms of what you said about the operation that Israel revealed yesterday morning, which I think at the Cradle we all looked at and said, what are they up to? Because, they revealed something that only, it sounded like propaganda in preparation for their Lebanon war plans, because they've been talking Lebanon nonstop for 10 days now. So to seed fear in, to get the Israeli public on side by revealing false information that they had thwarted a Hezbollah assassination attempt on high-ranking Israeli official, something that Hezbollah has not done to date, but suddenly did. And then hours later, this operation goes off. Now, Seema, we also talked earlier about Axios, Al-Monitor, a few Western and Israeli sources, media outlets, claiming that the devices were detonated by the Israelis yesterday because two Hezbollah operatives had sussed out that something was wrong with these devices. Okay, I call bullshit on this. You don't execute a pre-planned, special military operation on a quick whim when there's no strategic objective. You just don't do that. The operation then goes dead. If you've been detected, it goes dead. But you don't just say, we have nothing to lose, let's go for it. That's not how militaries plan. And this is what we're hearing from U.S. officials. Oh, yeah, they knew they were going to lose this if they didn't use it. It's not how it works. I think the Israelis did this deliberately, chose the time deliberately to cause maximum chaos and fear and terror in the Lebanese public. I think they chose this time deliberately after their Security Council meeting to escalate on their northern border with Lebanon. It was a deep and wounding provocation to the Lebanese resistance. I don't think anyone in the world right now, Seema, and certainly not the Lebanese population, would have any problem with an equal or severe Hezbollah retaliatory strike on Israel. But here's the question. Should the Lebanese resistance give Israel what it wants?
Yeah, about taking the bait. I don't know. I mean, I've been asking since yesterday, what does a response to this even look like? And what does it entail? How much preparation does it need? Because I don't know if it's launching precision missiles. I don't know if that's a proportionate response when it's such a big security blow. And I agree with you for the most part about these Axios and Al-Monitor reports that it's like, but I think it could have been possible that maybe someone suspected something. But I do agree with you that this kind of excuses Israel. Like, we have to detonate this now. This was like a use it or lose it moment, and that the defense establishment decided to carry it out now rather than later to risk, they didn't want to risk being discovered later on. Whether it's true or not, you call bullshit. Whether it's true or not, I mean, one thing is for true. This card that Israel used, it's used it and now it's burnt it. It can't use it later. So that's true. The response, I really don't know what that looks like. Does that look like a next level of escalation in the sense of, deepening strikes and displacing another 100,000 settlers? What does it look like? Or is it a concentrated, studied response like the response to Fuad Shukr was? Because this is a very different thing than an assassination operation.
Fuad Shukr, as important as he was, the top military commander in Hezbollah, this is a different kind of scenario. Hezbollah can take a hit at its highest levels and itself be left alone to plan its retaliation. But I think with something like this, where Lebanese civilians were killed, where the Iranian ambassador was hit, where the son of a major Lebanese member of parliament was killed, to create such anger and rage that Hezbollah would be forced to do the kind of retaliation that would strike a similar blow to Israel. Now that the Israelis would immediately call an act of war. Now, Lebanon has called what Israel did yesterday an act of war, reserving its right to retaliate in kind. But I just for the first time feel, as much as we feel anguish for the people and understand the anger and rage on the streets and the desire to sort of, see some bloodletting on the Israeli part, fully understandable emotion and reaction, I, for the first time, feel that we should not give Israel what it wants and that a strike should be commensurate, smart, lethal, importantly, but do as the resistance axis has done, from the start that I think the world now sees. This axis has sought from day one to limit civilian casualties in any opportunity. Okay, their one call is stop the brutal attacks on Gaza, which the Israelis have not heeded. Why don't the resistance, who have missiles and sophisticated missiles galore, just hit Israel and take it out? It's because they know that even if you strike Israel in all its key centers, the state and its allies will try to do some kind of equivalent destruction in its various battlefront countries, and that will kill a lot of civilians, because the Israelis, the Americans, the British, the French, they have never considered or cared about civilian casualties and deaths in wars they launch against us in the region in West Asia. So for me, I hope that the resistance axis's response is very measured, calculating, but also lethal. I also wonder, and something we should talk about in future Cradle Bites, is how Iran will react. We haven't really heard anything yet, because their ambassador was targeted and injured, and we don't know the extent of his injuries yet. But how will Iran react to this? Will Iran also now reserve the right to respond, as they did when the Israelis struck their consulate building in Damascus earlier this year, for which they did a grand retaliation? So
I don't know. I mean, then there'll have to be like a double response, because we have Hani and then we have the pager terror attack. So I'm not sure, but I agree with you that the resistance will not take the bait, because it's been established from the beginning of the war that the resistance will not be the one to wage war. It will go to war when war is waged on it. And it has a goal, which is to support Gaza and stop the aggression on Gaza. So no matter what happens, this was a terror attack. It was a war crime. And I don't know. It needs to be studied. Obviously, the resistance knows better than me. God protect them. But yeah, it's not going to be... they're not going to take the bait. I don't think they're going to take the bait. But we will see what level this takes the...
I agree, but I think the pressure has never been higher on Hezbollah. Because of the amount of people that were hit. And it was an Israeli goal. The Israelis, we always talk about like pushing every red line to its limit, to how far they dare to see what the reaction will be from the Axis. And unfortunately, they've often interpreted the Axis's reluctance to respond in kind or to escalate as weakness. And it is not. It is literally to save civilian fallout and casualties from an escalated military situation on their borders. But in this case, I think you have Lebanese civilians now calling for something. They're furious.
Yeah.
And that's what Israel intended,
Sure. Because it's an attack on Lebanon, right? I mean, the government said it was an attack. The government said it was Israel, said it was an attack. It's not just about, a Hezbollah thing anymore.
Yeah. Look, I think this is all we can say at the moment. The Cradle is following developments very closely. We have people on the ground who are getting information. Some we can disclose, some we can't yet. We need to verify, etc. But this was the first episode of the Cradle Bites, and we will hope to bring you more in the days ahead. So thank you for watching, and thank you, Seema.